Hey guys, so on today's episode of Hey Alice, we're going to be chatting about the market and I'm going to give you the lowdown on what's actually been happening. So Toronto real estate, and I'm sure that you're hearing it, is cooling, but it's still red hot, which is super confusing. So let me explain to you and I'm going to break it down. Now, there's been a lot of talk regarding the cooling of the real estate market across the GTA and that the looming burst of the bubble will happen sooner than later. But not to burst anyone's bubble, yes, that pun is intended, despite the decline in sales since the market's March peak, the reality is that the GTA's real estate market is still red hot. Not only am I seeing it in the numbers, but I'm actually experiencing it firsthand, being out on that field daily working with my clients. Buying a house still remains a challenge for many frustrated would-be first-time homebuyers. We're still seeing competition, albeit it's reduced, but it's a different mentality when approaching the offer table and competing with one or two offers versus 5, 10, 15. So we've seen a decline in sales across the GTA since its peak in March by about 29%, dropping from just over 15,000 to just over 11,000. And I think that a lot of people are thinking that the decline in sales means that we're heading in the direction of this crash, but I don't think that's what's happening. So this cooling narrative can be really confusing for a lot of buyers and sellers, and it's really important to dive in deeper than just reading headlines or listening to the media. So with the recent release of the stats report for June, the media really zoomed in and really focused on the month's relatively low sales. In March, the GTA saw a record high of 15,652 homes sold, but that number dropped to 13,663 in April, then 11,951 in May, and to just over 11,000 in June. So yes, 11,000 is significantly less than 15,000. But to put things into perspective, home sales were actually up 28.5% from 8,645 to just over 11,000 compared to last June when the market was beginning its rebound from COVID-19. However, that being said, last June we were still relatively fresh in that grips of the global pandemic at that point. So to my point about the media, further context is necessary when trying to make these big decisions. Now, an important consideration and something to keep in mind is that June 2021 numbers were also up from June 2019's 8,086 total homes sold, long before the term social distancing even became a part of our vocabulary. Now, earlier this week, the Toronto Real Estate Board, which compiles data from Durham Region to Peel Region, York Region, and various regions throughout the GTA, announced revisions to its 2021 forecast, now predicting that 115,000 transactions will be made in 2021, which is up 10,000 more than it's originally forecasted. Again, to further put things into perspective, at the end of 2019, pre-pandemic times, just under 88,000 homes have sold in the GTA. At the end of 2020, during a pandemic, 95,000 homes sold in the GTA. Now, despite the slowdown in sales since March, don't underestimate the volume in June. It's actually the third highest June ever and the 12th highest month ever in the last 306 months since January 1996 that TREB has monthly data available for. Now, despite the cooling in sales activity in June, prices climbed higher in the GTA. Let's not forget that the average price of a home in the Greater Toronto Area also rose 17% to just under $1,090,000 last month. But in Durham Region, the average price of a home is up 35% year over year, sitting at $917,000. Condos are up 19%, sitting at an average price of $522,000. In York Region, the average price of a home is up $19,000 over last year, sitting at $1.24 million. Condos are selling 12% higher than last June with an average price of $641,000. Now, depending on where you're looking, some homes will still be getting 5 to 10 offers, so it doesn't feel cooler. The reality is that right now we are comparing it to what was an insane market 2 months ago. We went from absolute insanity to now a pretty good seller's market. The market right now is like driving a car on the highway and you're going 200 kilometers per hour. Then you kind of tap the brake and you drop your speed to 130 kilometers per hour. You're still going fast, but you just slowed down. So it's not that the market is crashing or at a standstill. It's still a quick and fast moving market and competitive, just not as competitive as it was in the spring. And I mean, for good reason, right? We've been cooped up in our homes for months. The weather is nice, restrictions are finally lifting, and people want to be out enjoying time with their family and friends. So if you're reading the headlines and listening to the media, they're painting this picture of the real estate market that it's declining and there's some sort of large crash or correction coming. But let's just unpack this for a moment. Although yes, sales are starting to decline, they're declining month over month versus year over year. And the analysis of each comparison is important, but to paint the picture with one brush would be unfair. So you need to have some context around these statements in order to make quality decisions about real estate. Now, we're coming off back-to-back record-breaking months, and the market tends to naturally find its footing and new thresholds because what we were seeing earlier this year, was it sustainable? The answer is no. Although we don't have a crystal ball, we can make predictions based on the past data, and what it shows is that real estate does this thing where it completely accelerates very quickly for about 4 to 5 months, and then it cools off a little bit, and then it bounces along for a bit until it ramps up again. And we've seen that trend for the last 20 years, and it was evident for the first 4 months of this year. So if I had to predict, I would say that over the course of the next few months, I don't see prices declining. I think that they're going to remain constant and stable at their new threshold. Now, in terms of a dramatic bubble pop, it's unlikely. While a decline in sales does characterize the state of most housing bubbles, the next step is a surge in inventory. But we aren't seeing that in Toronto or the surrounding areas, where the supply of coveted family homes isn't growing. The fact that the number of homes for sale is lower than it was in March, less listings are hitting the market, which could also be relative to how many home sales aren't happening. Keep in mind, the buyers in today's market aren't speculative. They're families, they're first-time home buyers, and people first make decisions and purchases based on emotion. So if buyers aren't finding homes that they're connecting with, they're just going to wait until something hits the market that they can envision themselves living for the next 5 to 10 years. With some homes, buyers will find that there's actually more buying opportunity in this climate and are likely to get a better deal. More sellers are changing their strategy and are accepting offers anytime. There aren't these wild, crazy 25 offer bidding wars, and now you actually may have an opportunity to make an offer conditional based on financing or inspection, and things that would have been impossible a few months back. But in the event that you are competing, it's still crucial to follow the process and be prepared. As mentioned, it is still a seller's market with under 1 month of inventory in the GTA. Durham has about half a month of inventory, and York has 1.1 months of inventory. So the homes that are presented well, are clean, renovated, updated, and marketed well will still have great success in the summer months, but it's the homes that are less desirable and not so great areas that are going to have a tough time finding that right buyer. Now keep in mind, if you're a seller looking to sell soon, well, it's likely that you're going to be having to buy your next home in the same market, and it really depends on you and your goals if now is a good time for you to make a move or not. So if you have any questions or concerns or would like to know how the last couple of weeks have impacted your home's value, never hesitate to reach out. Ciao for now, and I'll catch you in the next one.